I want to pose this as a question, okay? Is the transfer portal ruining college football? A lot of you say yes. I say no, and I want to say it like this. No. I want to say it very commonsensically, almost insulting, kind of makes me sound like a jerk, but don't worry, I'm going to back it up. I don't think it's ruining college football. I do think it's a temporary inconvenience, especially for those of you, to be honest, who are like me and are more traditional, and you love to see things just done the way they always have been done. I get that, okay? But some things, believe it or not, I think this is one of them, will self-correct if you just give it a little bit of time. This is an era that we live in now societally where there's got to be a fix for everything. You notice that? If anyone's been out of shape, if anyone's mad about anything, there's got to be a fix for it. Sometimes the best fix is just to cross your arms, sit back, and wait on the situation to rectify itself. You don't even have to interject. It's like if you've ever watched baby birds try and work their way out of their egg, just keep your hands off the nest. Nature has figured out a way here, like God has designed this a specific way. He doesn't need you peeling back the eggshell off the bird's nose. Doesn't need it, believe it or not. Birds have existed without you for plenty long enough. The transfer portal, it's just now coming out of its egg. It's just peeking through, chirp, chirp, chirp. Just give it a little while. Now, I know what the cries are right now. The cry, there are several of them. First things first. Well, what's it going to do with all these programs? It's leaving teams and coaches in a lurch. If they have a dozen guys that want to transfer out after spring practice, what are you going to do? Go recruit high school kids in May? Like Dabo said the other day. No, we can't do it. You ask me what it's going to do? It's going to suck in the short term. That's what it's going to do. You got to suck it up and you got to next man up. And if it's not already on a t-shirt, it should be. You just got to, that's how you have to be. You can't do anything about it, is my answer. In the short term, the very micro term, you can't do anything about it. So suck it up, next man up. That has to be the answer short term. However, I want you to think about the flip side of that coin. I don't know the very latest as of this moment number, but as has been very well documented, there are far more kids in the transfer portal than there are spots on rosters. This is not going to end well. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure that out. So then here's cry number two. What about these poor children? What about all these kids? They're making terrible decisions. We need to step in and make the decision for them. No, you don't. Same ones. Same ones of you out there crying they should be able to profit off their name, image, and likeness, which I agree with. You're telling me they're an adult, but then they're not an adult in this sense. They can't make decisions for themselves. Yeah, they can. It's just going to be a really poor outcome. Sometimes you got to let folks screw up, and it may derail the rest of their athletic career. Tough. Suck it up, next man up. It applies to the program. Well, it's the same coin flipped upside down. It applies to the player too. Let it work itself out is what I'm saying, because here's what really needs to happen. The players of the future who eventually will be in college and will be eligible and on the fence about transferring, they are watching right now. They're 13 years old. They're 14 years old. Their parents need to be watching right now. Their high school coaches need to be watching. College coaches need to be watching. You've got to learn lessons over this stuff. And I can tell you right now, here's the big flip that I think is coming. Currently, it's just assumed that all the risk when it comes to discussing the transfer portal is on the program. The program is the entity that stands to lose players, it stands to have its roster slashed, and so the program assumes all the risk. That's not true. The big flip in perception is coming when you find out how many kids are left out in the cold because they went into the transfer portal and then they're looking for the way out and there's no landing spot. What do? Well, you may go back where you came from. They may not want you back. You may have to go to a lesser destination. You may have to partially pay your own freight, or your college football career may be over. And it may disproportionately impact the rest of your life because of going in that portal. You're going to find out that there's a lot more risk on the shoulder of the player going into the portal than there is the program having to wave goodbye to the player. Nebraska football, it's always going to be there. Whether I, as an outside linebacker buried on the depth chart, whether I choose to stay in Lincoln or not, Nebraska is going to suit up. They're going to field a team this coming fall. I may go into that portal and never be heard from again. Nebraska will be okay. The teams will be okay. The individual player, once it starts to be more well publicized, the risk and the consequence on some of these guys who don't find a landing spot, mark my words, the transfer portal will correct itself. If you'll just keep your hands out of it, the transfer portal will end up correcting itself. So to answer the question we led with, no, the transfer portal is not ruining college football. It's a hindrance right now. You're getting used to it. It's new in the room. You know, you got to introduce yourself and you got to live with it for a little while. It'll correct itself. It'll be okay.